In the heart of the 5th century, when the Romang Empire was crumbling, a new power rose from the vast windswept steppes of Eurasia. They were the Huns, and their leader was a man whose name would echo through history as a byword for conquest and terror, Attila. But who was the man behind the legend of the Scourge of God? Let's uncover the true story of Attila the Hun. Born around 406 AD, Attila's early life is shrouded in mystery. He and his brother Bleda inherited leadership of the Hunnic Empire in 434. This wasn't a kingdom of cities and farms, but a nomadic confederation of fierce warriors united by their equestrian skill and military prowess. From their base in what is now Hungary, the brothers looked upon a fractured Europe, ripe for the taking. Their first major target was the Eastern Roman Empire. Through a series of devastating raids into the Balkans, they forced Emperor Theodosius II to the negotiating table. The resulting treaty was a humiliation for Rome, forcing them to pay a massive annual tribute in gold just to keep the Huns at bay. It was a protection racket on an imperial scale, and it made Attila incredibly wealthy and powerful. He used this gold not just for himself, but to reward his warriors and bind other tribal chieftains to his cause, swelling his ranks. In 445, a dramatic shift occurred. Bleda died, and historical accounts, mostly from Roman sources, hint that Attila may have had a hand in his brother's demise. With Bleda gone, Attila became the sole undisputed ruler of the Huns. His ambition, no longer shared, grew boundless. He was no longer just a raider. He saw himself as an emperor. 2 years later, in 447, Attila unleashed his greatest assault on the Eastern Roman Empire. He broke the previous treaty, storming through the Balkans with an even larger army. His forces were relentless, sacking over 70 cities. They rode as far as the walls of Constantinople itself, a city so well fortified that even Attila couldn't breach it. Yet again, the Romans were forced to sue for peace, agreeing to an even more crippling tribute. Attila had brought the Eastern Empire to its knees. With the East bled dry, Attila turned his gaze westward, towards the weakening Western Roman Empire. His pretext for invasion was a strange and fascinating one. Honoria, the sister of the Western Roman Emperor Valentinian III, had sent Attila her ring, pleading for him to rescue her from an unwanted marriage. Attila chose to interpret this as a proposal of marriage, and boldly demanded half of the Western Roman Empire as her dowry. When the Romans naturally refused this outrageous demand, Attila had his excuse. In 451, he gathered a colossal army, a diverse coalition of Huns, Goths, Alans, and other Germanic tribes, and crossed the Rhine River into Gaul, modern-day France. He carved a path of destruction, sacking cities like Metz and heading for Orleans. But the Romans were not finished yet. The brilliant general, Flavius Aetius, a man who had spent time among the Huns and understood their ways, assembled a coalition of his own. He united Roman legions with their traditional enemies, the Visigoths, led by their king, Theodoric I. The two massive armies finally met on a fateful day in June 451, near Chalons, in what would be known as the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains. It was one of the largest and bloodiest battles of the ancient world. The fighting was savage and chaotic. At one point, the Visigoth king Theodoric was killed, but instead of breaking, his warriors fought with even greater fury to avenge him. The battle raged until nightfall with no clear winner, but the strategic victory belonged to Aetius. Attila's aura of invincibility was shattered. He had been stopped. He retreated back across the Rhine. His loss is heavy. Yet Attila was not defeated. The very next year, 452, he regrouped and invaded the heart of the Western Empire, Italy itself. He descended from the Alps, sacking major cities like Aquilea, Padua, and Milan. Panic gripped the peninsula. The city of Rome, the Eternal City, lay vulnerable. Emperor Valentinian III fled. But then something unexpected happened. As Attila's army marched south, they were met not by an army, but by a diplomatic mission led by Pope Leo I. What was said between the Pope and the Hunnic warlord is a matter of legend. Some say the Pope invoked the power of God. Others point to more practical reasons. Attila's army was suffering from famine and disease. His supply lines were overstretched, and Roman forces were beginning to regroup. Furthermore, a plague was ravaging Italy. Whatever the reason, Attila made a stunning decision. He turned his army around and left Italy. Rome was spared. This would be his final campaign. In 453, just a year later, Attila died. The circumstances are as dramatic as his life. According to the histories, he had just taken a new young bride named Ildiko. He celebrated his wedding night with a great feast. The next morning, his attendants found him dead, having suffered a severe nosebleed and choked in his sleep. The mighty Scourge of God, who had terrorized an empire, died not on the battlefield, but in his bed. His death was the end of an era. Without his unifying leadership and sheer force of will, the Hunnic Empire crumbled almost as quickly as it had risen. His sons fought amongst themselves for control, and the subject tribes rose up in rebellion. Within a generation, the Huns had vanished from the stage of history, assimilated and scattered. So what is Attila's legacy? Was he just a brutal barbarian leader, a harbinger of destruction? To the Romans, he certainly was. But to his own people, he was a strong, unifying king who led them from obscurity to the brink of world domination. He was a master strategist, a shrewd diplomat, and an utterly ruthless leader who understood the power of fear. He didn't just tear down the old world. His invasions accelerated the fall of the Western Roman Empire and reshaped the map of Europe, paving the way for the medieval kingdoms that would follow. The story of Attila the Hun is a powerful reminder that history is often written by the victors, and that behind every legend, there is a complex and often terrifying human story. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed learning about the life of Attila, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's most fascinating characters. Let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like us to cover next. Until then, stay curious.